Hey babes, this is Tandem Orgasms, your go-to podcast on life coaching, owning your divine feminine power, and the far-out new age world of spirituality with your hosts, Caitlin Englert and Jen Morgan. Ladies, it's time to step into a new kind of confidence, one where you stop searching for and instead claim the balance you crave. Each week, we will bring you wisdom, personal experiences, and ridiculous banter that will have you laughing while also providing you with useful tools to transform your life from blah to turned on to your climactic inner diva.
What episode is this? This is 4?
4.
Okay.
And make sure we talk into the camera.
I like doing that lately.
And we're grounding.
And we're grounding.
And we are rooted.
Centering and grounding.
It's like we're with your tree.
I know. I tap into that tree all the time.
Well, you know what? There's a
bed.
tree behind us and a tree around my neck.
Oh, wow.
Not literally a tree, but a necklace that has a tree on it.
I should probably not touch that. It's going to fall into that.
We won't be finishing the episode.
And we're not grounded, and we're crushed by a painting. Okay, guys, welcome to episode 4 of our podcast, Tandem Orgasms. Today, we are going to talk about taking ownership and accountability and letting go.
It's a hot topic right now.
It's a hot topic. So even before we get into it, I want to say something about this being a very hot topic. I have heard from many, many, many different, I would say spiritual coaches, light workers, whatever, terminology, right? Terminology is terminology, but that this has been a very, very big year for shadow work. Okay. So if you have felt like you have been prompted by many different factors in your life to look at really hard topics or hard things to make peace within yourself this year, you are not alone, right? And so this is a perfect conversation to have with this episode, is to talk about how to release and how to let go of those things that might feel like they're kind of hard to make peace with, right? When we are prompted with parts of ourselves that we don't want to claim, or we feel disjointed from, or we say, I don't want to claim that, I'm going to put that over there. Eventually we will have to look at that stuff. Eventually we will have to make peace with that stuff. And so I think we can touch on that a little bit in this episode today. But for right now, I'm going to turn it over to Kate, and she's going to introduce a little bit more about the topic that we're going to talk about today.
Wow, I feel like I've been put on the spot.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I can do this.
You got this. You got this, girl.
I definitely agree with you that it is a hot topic right now.
Yeah.
And not only have I seen this as a theme in my own life, but I constantly see this as a theme in the lives of my clients, family members, friends, everyone that comes to me or I'm having conversations with are, they're feeling this, how do I want to say it?
Pull, like an intense,
pull,
deep,
but almost stuck, but it also a pull to make the change. But the getting stuck part is that uncertainty of wanting to make the change, or the fear around making the change.
Mm. So you're feeling like it's for me, I feel like it's an internal pull to make peace with something. But do you see a lot of people who are saying, oh, I need to make a decision, that kind of like an external thing? And they're struggling with the stuckness around a decision? Or is it both? Is it a stuckness around what they're feeling about themselves and also stuck making decisions?
Is stuckness a word?
I don't know.
It sounds kind of cool. Webster should add that to the dictionary.
Stuckness. Is your stuckness internal stuckness or external stuckness? Or both? It probably is both. Stuckness.
I do feel like it's a combination of both. They feel this internal pull to make a change, but the factors surrounding that, or uncertainty of how do I make this change? Mm-hmm. How do I take ownership of this? And all these other emotions cloud their ability to start making those decisions and taking ownership in moving into the direction that they want to go in.
Yeah. And so, if you didn't listen in last week, this would be a good time to plug our last episode, which was about decision debt, right? So, this will be an important one for you to kind of go back, if you didn't catch that one, to go back and listen, right? Because I think a lot of us right now, I think, like I said, back to that internal external situation, when we're starting to make peace with our internal state, it often means that we have to make external decisions so that our environment changes, right? Because vibrationally, you have to be a match. Your internal environment has to be a match for your external. So what you will see is that if you up level yourself, you start to make peace with parts of yourself that maybe you polarized at some point. You were like, I'm not claiming this. This is not me. You're making peace. You're coming to a place of up-leveled self-acceptance and self-love. You will see that your environmental factor do have to shift so that you are, once again, a vibrational match. It is the law of attraction. Like attracts like. You have to be at that level, right? So that involves oftentimes being prompted to make very hard decisions to then shift your external environment to match your internal state. So if you've been doing inner work for a while, it would not be surprising. It would not be abnormal. And you are not alone if you feel like you're now having to make really tough decisions around your life factors, right?
Yeah, it's really painful. And it always comes back to this. This is something I always bring up to clients is your environment, your environment, your environment. Mm-hmm. The people you're surrounded with, the place that you live, the places you're going, the type of work you're doing, all of these things factor into...
And trees.
Yes.
Yes, and trees. Environment. Sorry.
Trees. I didn't realize what you said.
Your environment and trees.
Yeah, make sure you find a tree in your environment.
We got to go back to that every episode now.
A tree will save you, so make sure you have one.
Yes, continue. And I'll continue.
If I can.
So your environment, plus a tree equals, what does it equal?
Actually, I was thinking about, I don't know, I suck at re-quoting things like off the top of my head, but there is this quote by James Clear, and I'm not going to try to repeat it because I don't know it, but it was something about environment. So don't try to swim upstream, like against the current. And so many people do that.
God, it's crazy that you're saying this right now. I'm sorry. I'm having now a moment on the podcast. I'm having a moment because the other day I had received something like I don't know what you call it, but something, spirit came through to me and they were giving me the sign of a fishing pole. And I thought, that's strange. I don't fish. Like, cool, but like, thanks, but no thanks. That wasn't helpful. But then I was like, okay, I'm going to keep it in the back here, right? So then later in that day, I ended up going to the beach and I was sitting on the swing at the spot that I go to. And I remembered going down there when I was little and watching the salmon. I would go, like, when I say little, I mean a teenager. I was able to drive.
There's salmon here?
Salmon would run from this pond, from the lake into this pond to spawn, right? And I used to watch them, and I used to watch the struggle because they were fighting against the current. And I knew in that moment, that's what my guides were trying to tell me. You're fighting against the current. So the fact that you just said that on this podcast is like, okay. I get it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So I, like you, am probably fighting against the current is the point. But that's
always
what we do, right? We forget that we have support and guidance, and we try to fight that fight alone, right? So you find many people, like I do too, they're trying to fight against, right?
Or they don't have the supports in their life, and they're also not willing to have those communications with the people in their life or exit the environment that they're in. And I get it. That's not just a decision that you make overnight, but also you're not going to find the success that you're looking for or stay on the path that you want to stay on if you're trying to make this change in a toxic environment or an unhealthy environment or an environment that's not conducive for your change. Just like, okay, so I work with a few people that struggle with alcoholism, drug addiction, and their partners or their significant others either, one, don't understand what they're going through,
so no support network,
don't even know maybe that they're doing this, Or 3, they just don't care and they think, well, it's their problem, not mine. And so their partner will continue to drink. And that is not supportive to a person in recovery. It just makes it too easy to go back to.
Because it's coping, right? So they'll go back to, oh, now I'm alone and I feel unsupported. And now I'm struggling with this thing, but I'm going to go back to it because that feels more supportive or feels better than maybe the environment feels.
Yeah.
Right?
Or like, say you go out to dinner and your partner orders a glass of wine, you're more likely to order that glass of wine because there's no one holding you accountable. Yes, you're responsible for your recovery and the changes in your life, but also, like, I can just share my own personal experience.
Like a really grounded way to say like an environmental match for your energetic vibration. Like, I really like this.
Yeah.
Analogy. This is like a really nice.
Like, I have created an environment and a network of people that, yes, if I wanted to go back out and use that, I could make that happen. But literally no one in my life would support it or allow it.
I've been pretty vocal about it too.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I will kill you. You'll be dead anyway. It won't matter.
Yeah, but you know what? That holds me accountable. So anytime I have thoughts of wanting to do that, I think, okay, well, I literally would have to go into the closet and drink because nobody in my life would support this and it would just destroy everything. But if I had one person that I knew would be okay with it, or be like, you know, it's not a big deal. You didn't have a problem with this, so you can do this. Then, it would make it so much easier to just revert back to that old way. Yeah. So and this isn't just in terms of recovery, this is for any change that you're trying to make in your life.
Creating a nurturing environment for that change so that that change can grow in that place.
Yeah. Like if you're struggling with a disordered eating, you know, and you have your partner's dieting, or someone in your household's dieting, or all your friends are dieting or doing things that are, you know, maybe okay for them or maybe even unhealthy for them, but you're trying to make this change in your life. You're really not going to find success. Yeah. Or if you're trying to make these changes, but your personal trainer is trying to tell you what to eat and what to not eat, that's just not going to work. That is not a person or an environment that will support your recovery, you know, from a eating disorder or disordered eating.
Or like, so it really can be applied to so many situations. And actually it's funny because now I'm, you know, with this specific example, I can resonate with that, because that was what I experienced. So, you know, I had many years of having an eating disorder, and it was because my environment and my career choice, that was acceptable, right? That was what I was supposed to do because I was modeling. So it was like, this is my way of life. And it's interesting because I'm thinking to myself, like, I actually made those choices to change my environment. I don't think I was fully conscious. I wasn't really as awake as I am now in this stage of my life, obviously. But yet I knew if I stayed, so like I was in New York City and I was, you know, it was a rat race of a time in my life. And I was constantly in an environment that was telling me you're not good enough. Everything about you relies on a number on the scale. And if you're not a number on the scale, you're not going to get the job and you're not going to get paid. And if you're not going to get paid, you can't make rent. And if you can't make rent, you're going to end up on the streets or end up with 2 other retail jobs. That happened. But I knew when I got to a certain place that it was so unhealthy. I literally, I remember the moment of like calling my parents and saying, you got to come get me. You got to come get me. Because I knew if I stayed there, I was going to die.
How did you know that it was that time to just let go? Or how did you know it was time to take ownership and make that decision?
I knew because there was something in my gut that told me there's something more than this. And I think maybe a lot of you guys out there can resonate with that feeling of knowing, like, this is not the life I signed on for. This pain is not the life I signed on for. There has to be something more than this. Because I remember the place I was in was such a dark place. And I won't go into too many details of that because I think most people can resonate with when you hit that rock bottom place, the thoughts that are there, that are waiting for you are not okay. And I knew in that moment, I was like, if I don't leave, my alternative here is pretty much I'm going to end up dying, right?
And it doesn't matter if it's an eating disorder, if it's an unhealthy relationship with fitness, if it's an addiction, if it's anxiety, depression.
And we're giving you examples, right, that are definitely heavier on the scale. But guys, this doesn't necessarily just apply to those heavier scenarios. This applies to when you feel a level of alignment to some place that you're going, and you're ready to shift into that. Your environment has to be able to match that, whether it's on a micro scale or a pretty big scale. Like even in that moment, like for me, I knew that my environment had to change. And that was it was like a no-brainer, because it was, for me, it was like a life or death situation, I guess I kind of realized. But these don't necessarily have to be that extreme of moments for you to say, okay, I think especially I think of like my spiritual walk. There have been so many times where I've been aware I'm being pushed to be in a greater alignment with myself, my truth, what I came here to do. And in order to commit to that, I cannot keep making the same choice, or I cannot keep living in this way, right? And there was some, like, even again, when I realized that alignment to my own truth, that was actually when I fell away from my eating disorder. Like finally, I moved. I ended up, saying, hey, you got to come get me. But I didn't end the behaviors yet.
Right, but that was the first step. That was the taking responsibility.
Yes.
And saying, this is not okay. I'm no longer okay with this, and I need to do something. I may not know what that looks like or how this is going to pan out, but I know I'm making this decision right now.
Yeah. And then so that process for me happened in continuing to do that, to continue to weed out those things. So like I kind of started to wake up to my spiritual background somewhat closely after that, and realize that in order to love myself the way I wanted to, I could no longer continue the behavior. Because even when the first day I walked into a yoga studio, my motive behind doing that, because I had come back from New York City and I had some hang time, and I was like, I need to lose weight. That was where my head was at, because I was so used to the cycle of losing weight that when I walked into a yoga studio, I thought to myself, I've heard people lose weight at this. I'm going to do this. And what came to meet me was, whoa.
Yeah.
I started to wake up, and I was like, wait, I don't think that I can stay in this place and hear these type of messages with the type of behavior that I'm making around my own self, my body. I couldn't do it anymore.
Well, and I was going to say, you put yourself in an environment that was like, hey, no, that's not what we do.
Yeah. I shifted without being aware of it. I started to shift my environment to match what was happening within me. And so again, guys, like, it doesn't have to be, this is an extreme scenario, but when you start to, really, really do some soul searching, and I think in any way, shape, or form, and you say, something's not matching up to my greater level of alignment, that environment has to shift. And even in that moment of just saying that to yourself, whatever that looks like for you, that is taking a greater sense of ownership over your life and saying, hey, I think when I've kind of been in these darker places, the thing that I usually say to myself is like, this isn't what I signed on for. I know something way better is out there for me.
And if you're feeling stuck, or you're feeling that pull to make the change, but still feeling like maybe a little bit of a wall, or you're preventing yourself from moving forward, it's likely because you haven't taken responsibility or ownership of your life.
Yeah.
And what that means is saying, you know what? I'm not going to let my past or my wounds or my trauma or what's happened to me or anyone dictate or control this area of my life anymore, my life in general anymore. I am taking ownership of that no matter what has happened to me.
Yeah.
I'm owning it, and I'm taking back control, and I'm going to move forward and start making decisions that best serve me.
Yep. And it's so easy to do that thing where we play, the blame game, or we are a victim to life circumstances. Like, I can't tell you how many times from the time I started my eating disorder, just to go back to that, you know, to the time where I was like, come, I got to get out of here. I got to leave, or
Mhm.
you know, things are going to get a lot worse. Like that I felt like I was a victim to my circumstances. I was using that addiction to this, you know, way of living with food, or without food more so, to cope with all of my wounds, all of my things that I was like, well, this happened to me, and this happened to me, and this happened to me. And I was blaming other people, and I was blaming other things, and I was a victim to all my circumstances. And that was my way to micromanage my life. I wasn't taking ownership, right? But then when it got to a certain point, it was like, whoa, I got to make a change. And then I started to realize like, okay, I can sit here and I can be a victim to my circumstances. And most likely when I feel a victim to my circumstances, I'm going to go back to those habits, because that would have been my way of solving that problem. I feel bad. I feel bad that this has happened to me. Now I'm going to go and then I'll punish myself, because it was kind of
vicious
like a
cycle.
vicious cycle. Yeah.
It's a really bad cycle.
A pretty messy thing, right? But then eventually I took that ownership and I said, like I said, yoga was my thing. It was my revolution for myself. It was like, oh my God, I have to take ownership of this, because this, like, I can't keep doing this within a level of alignment to what they're saying. I can't keep showing up unless I'm going to shift. And that's got to come from me. And then that process of that deep ownership, and just to go back to what I said in the beginning of this, that is a huge integral part of shadow work, is taking ownership of your life. You have experienced things that hurt. You've experienced pain. You have had wounds. You've had traumas. We all have. We've all have tons and tons of stuff that we experience within a lifetime. But what happens when you take ownership of that and say, I am going to accept these things? You start to be empowered. You start to say, I'm not going to let these things define me, but I am not going to also pretend they haven't happened. I can have a sense of ownership and say, okay, but now how can I flip the script a little bit? Like that's one of the things I've been doing with my clients lately. It's like, okay, I want you to think back to a time when you felt a trauma or a wound, right? Write this out. What did it make you feel? What did you say about yourself? What did you internalize? What did this make you believe was true? Now rewrite it. How can you write that story to say, I am actually the hero in this. This made me who I was.
I like that exercise.
Yeah, that's a deep part of shadow work. It's like, okay, I had this experience of having this eating disorder that stemmed from childhood wounds and stuff after that, and blah, 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 blah. Trauma. We'll just say trauma blanket. We'll throw a blanket on that trauma.
So one quote that I used a lot and I've heard this in the addiction field, but it's applicable to anything, is you're not responsible for what has happened to you, but you are responsible for your recovery.
Yes.
Recovery from whatever that is, addiction, mental health, trauma, whatever it might be in your life. You are responsible for those things.
Yeah.
And it sucks. Listen, it sucks. It sucks to have to take responsibility for actions of others that hurt us.
Consider that your greatest superpower, this is a quotable, I'm about to quotable the crap out of this.
Quotable.
This is a quote Jen on this. Consider that your greatest superpower lies within your wound.
I believe that. Yeah.
Like, right? Because my greatest superpower lied within that which I experienced so deeply. It allowed me to be able to show up the way I show up in my life now, because I can resonate with people in a lot of their deepest traumas. I have experienced so many of them that I can be like, you know what? I'm with you. I feel you. I'm with you. Let's, I
had a client recently say to me, how did you get so smart?
A lot of life.
And I said, yeah, that's exactly what I said. I was like, it's life experience. It's not something I read in a book. It's that I have been through experiences, and I didn't just go through those experiences, right? I went through them and made an active decision to work through it, to take that ownership, to let go, to learn from it. And that should have been my answer is, you know what? My experiences are my superpowers.
And you can't be afraid to like fuck up, because even in those moments where you're like, oh my gosh, how did this happen? Where am I going to go from here? Even in those moments, there is something greater waiting on the other side. that you can use as your life experience to do great work, to do, even if it's just for you, even if it's for your family, even if it's for whatever, like even if you're not somebody who's a coach, like those experiences, they hold so much knowledge, and you can turn even the worst scenarios into your greatest superpowers. Like my biggest wounds have become where my greatest learning base is, because I had to learn how to heal myself first. And now I can do the work that I do in the world because I experienced those. If I would have had like a beautiful little castle to live in, and sheltered from everything, I wouldn't be out on the front lines doing the work that I do with people and loving the shit out of it. I wouldn't be able to hold that space. I'm like I'm going to go to war for you, because I've experienced those things to be able to relate, and I will like literally carry a client on my damn back if I have to.
People take comfort in that though.
Yeah.
I know I have.
Get in the trench.
So I have a question.
Sure.
So how do you know when it's time to release and let go? Because I'm sure a lot of listeners out there are wondering, well, like I'm feeling something, but like, how do I know it's time, or how do I really start this process? So do you want to go first? How do you know when it was time?
So I've had as a great realization that I've had recently, this actually just came to me the other day, is realizing that the cost. So like I like to play the cost game. Okay. I have to make a decision. Is the cost of walking away from blank worth my level of alignment to where I'm going? Right. So I say to myself, like, okay, if I'm going to make this decision, it's going to have a cost, right? Because most things do.
Every single decision will have a cost. And a benefit.
Yeah. And I'm saying, okay, is the cost worth this benefit? Right? So I play cost benefit. Like I say, okay, I'm ready to align to this place. I see where I'm going. Even if I never get here, would the cost be worth it? And if over here, and I think 9 times out of 10, what is over here is like joy, happiness, what you really want, what you really desire, what feels like you're living out your life in a way that feels true. Even if that never happened, would the cost still be worth it? And my answer usually to that is always yes. And this is, again, something I came to the other day, which is what brought me to that point, is saying, okay, what did I come here for? Okay. Like if I think back to the time we're going to go, this is a spiritual moment.
So am I going to have to bring you back here?
No, probably. Maybe.
Yeah.
Probably. So like, think about the moment that you came into your existence. You came in and you said to yourself, I want to experience blank. What is it? And I can't take credit for this, because this is somebody that like made me do this exercise. And then I worked on this with a client, and I was like, this is gold. Okay. So, because I wanted to see the reaction. I had a very good response to this. And then I wanted to watch that to see, if you think back to the moment you came into this existence as a soul, you can remember, you will know, it'll come to you quick. Okay. What did I come here to experience? I'm asking all of you guys out there to do this with me. What did I come here to experience? Okay. I knew the second that I was asked what it was, because it came right into my mind. Love and acceptance. That's what I wanted to come here for.
And to meet Kate.
And to meet Kate, obviously. I mean, well, next level love and acceptance. She's my best friend.
She's my best friend.
My best friend, Kate.
Yeah. From the South. Catalan. Oh, yeah, I get that all the time.
Yeah, like I want you guys to think, like, what is it? And do this after, if you're not doing it with us right now. Close your eyes and just ask yourself, remember self, please remember, what did I come here for? Because you came here for something, and you could probably define it by one word, maybe 2. Mine is love and acceptance. And so now, knowing this information, I say to myself, okay, my level of alignment to what I want to experience in my life is love and acceptance. Okay. If I believe this is to be true, is it worth the cost? I have to make a choice here. Do I want to make a choice that leans me towards feeling love and acceptance and being love and acceptance? Is it worth this cost? And it makes that answer pretty damn clear. Because that's what you committed to when you came in as a soul. You said, I came here to experience love and acceptance, and I came here to bring it to the world. So every choice becomes very clear what it is that I am to do if I've committed to that fully.
Well, I think part of that is that why it's so hard for us to do that is because we don't accept our imperfections.
Mm-hmm.
We don't accept those dark sides of us, or the shadow sides.
Shadow sides, yeah.
So in embracing the light and the dark sides that we bring to the world will allow that process of acceptance, bringing it in and giving it to happen. It will help you break free of those chains, because really, if you keep, like last time we talked about, so last time, or maybe 2 episodes ago, we talked about comparison. And so if we are constantly comparing ourselves to other people and living a way of what we think we should be doing instead of just living the way that we're meant to be, then things will feel a lot easier. It will feel like a very freeing experience. Does that mean that you won't have regressions or insecurities or have those moments of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like weakness.
Yeah, I just don't like the word strength and weakness. I don't like using those terms.
What would be a better way to say that?
Setbacks.
Yeah, I like that.
Setbacks. We're all going to have them. Jen and I even have them.
Oh, yeah.
So even the people that you think, oh, I wish I had their life, like look how great they're doing.
We have to all make tough choices too.
People look at me now and see like, you're doing so great in your career and you're thriving. That doesn't mean internally I'm not still always like working through some of my own stuff. And then there's moments that I'm doing really well and I'm coasting, and then I'll have setbacks or things that I create problems. Right?
For fun. Why not?
For fun. Why not? Let me just torture myself.
I think honestly, I will say, I
like to do that.
I believe that is it is something that people who are very mentally sound and conscious do. We almost will create a challenge for
or if
ourselves,
you're bored
or a problem. Yeah, it's a thing.
I'm like, oh, I'm bored. I'm gonna just choose to obsess about this problem over here and make it a problem, though it's really not a problem.
It's not, but it's because you like the mental exercise. Like I've actually learned.
You're right. Yeah,
I've actually learned to do this with myself because I noticed that pattern a long time ago, and I think I got to some place where I just realized, like, oh my God, Jen, it's because you like the mental exercise. Like I need people to keep up with me, and if they can't, I'll create something so that I have the challenge because I'm bored.
I know. Well, you're right, though. I know it's unhealthy, but you're the first one that pointed it out to me when I was talking about something. You're like, Kate, stop making a problem out of nothing. Yeah. And I was like, damn, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because you really, basically all that says to you is my brain needs exercise. I need to be exercised. So like, what can you do that's more productive than creating a problem? I can think of 10 right now.
So to loop back around, in order to move into that place of love and acceptance, you have to let go of some of these things of beating yourself up because you're not perfect or because there's things that you don't like about yourself. If there's certain things, like for just a quick example, if you have social anxiety, don't put yourself in all these environments that you have to socialize with people. That's not conducive, or that's not helpful to your social anxiety, but also don't isolate 100% of the time, right? There has to be some kind of balance, and that's knowing yourself. You have to know yourself. So there's a time to like give yourself that little push and force yourself into situations. And then you also have to know, you know what? I'm not really feeling like I should do that right now. And knowing when to pull back.
Things match up, right? What if you say to yourself, okay, I see that there's a shift that needs to be made here. I'm shifting my internal environment. My external environment has to shift a little bit, but I also can match these. Like, it doesn't have to be so extreme. It could be micro step, and they both match, right? I'm working on myself. I know myself more. And because I know myself more, that means I have to make a little shift over here. I don't have to go throw myself into the deepest social situation, but I can socialize in a way that feels comfortable to me today. You know, like I can match these, just match. You're just incrementally making baby steps, you know? And I think that's healthy. Sometimes, guys, I will say, you know, this is a interesting topic I've pondered on a little bit recently, is that when it comes to even just spiritual work or, you know, doing a lot of self-acceptance work or self-love work or, you know, self-development, there is I have seen it a few times where people try to jump too quick, too fast, guys. And the thing is that that's actually immeasurable. So believe it or not, you actually have a certain amount of availability for, I don't know if I touched on this in one of the other episodes, but you have a certain amount of availability for new choices and for those up levels. If you try to jump too fast, too quick, you will get snapped back. Okay. And there, you know, and people, so this is, if you've ever heard of this before, they say this with Kundalini, it's a certain part of an energy channel in your body. If you open up Kundalini too quick, some people have seriously adverse reactions. So you're almost so much better. I know that you see what's in the horizon and you're like, I want to get there, but you're almost better making those micro steps, which will open up more availability. I call it bandwidth to keep going and having lasting change. So much better.
I see that a lot with people. I call them self-help junkies. I saw that on Instagram and it's true. Like there's people who will do self-help stuff, but then there's a self-help junkie who just like reads all this stuff and is always, you know, quoting it or saying it, but are you really living it? No, most likely not, because you're trying to do that too fast, too hard.
Like how much can you actually absorb that quick, right?
Exactly.
And again, you know, like if you open up, especially like, you know, the world that I live in is helping people with karmic situations, like, you know, if you go to, especially if you're doing it on your own, okay, it can feel like you're running into a brick wall, okay, often. Would you rather run into a brick wall 20 times and feel like you're constantly falling back, or would you rather make small incremental shifts that can make for lasting change? You know, like that is going to be 10 times healthier than kind of, I mean, how many times does it take for you to like, okay, I gotta get myself back up? You know, that's a hard thing for people to do generally if they feel stuck, right? So we like to give you these actionable tools. And I think I hear the same theme of most of the things that we've talked about so far in the podcast is like micro steps, guys. This is like, I know you see what's on the horizon and you say like, I see my soul purpose. I see my calling. Or I see alignment. I see it and I want it. I mean, I'm the person. Okay. I want to get there just as bad as you do. But I also know that, you know,
it's because you want to escape that feeling.
And what if you're swimming upstream to get there?
Right.
The whole time, right? You're being a salmon.
You're being a salmon.
Don't be a salmon.
The reason why, so to kind of wrap things up, but the reason why we stay stuck is because we don't feel safe. So there's an old wound that is causing us to feel unsafe. Yes. And so we stay stuck, even though it's uncomfortable. It's more uncomfortable to try to propel forward.
Out of the comfort zone. We talked about that.
So these behaviors will manifest into blending in,
hiding,
being unsure, being insecure,
decision debt,
micromanaging, obsession, impulsivity, like all these behaviors will come out of it. And until you can start making that decision, taking ownership of your life.
First, taking ownership. Yes. First, always taking the ownership, because if you were a victim, you do not have the power. If you own it, you have the power to make a change.
And those limiting beliefs or those limiting thoughts that hold you back, that's all they'll ever do is hold you back.
Paralyzing.
You can acknowledge them when they come forward, but don't hold on to them. Let them go. Yeah. Release them. And because they, you know, again, another decision is this serving me? Is this thought serving me? Is it helping me or hindering me? And so that's a good exercise as well. Like something that's really simple. You can ask yourself, okay, I'm having this thought right now. I'm feeling really insecure, whatever it is. Is this a helpful thought or is this going to hinder me? And once you have your answer, you can make your decision to let it go or hold on to it.
Yeah.
I mean,
and what if you gauge that, right? What if you gauge that towards, okay, what is it that I came here to experience? Is this thought in alignment with that or not? Boom. There you go. You have your answer. Move on, right? And I do want to just touch on this really quick, because I think what you'll notice is, we talked a little bit in this episode about, wounds and what we've experienced. Typically, it's very common as souls that whatever we came here saying we wanted to experience, we will experience over and over the opposite of that, okay? Until we can claim that thing that we are wanting to experience within ourselves, for ourselves, and then we will create an environmental match for it. So, have I created all these situations to show me the opposite of what it is that I want to feel, so that I could almost be a victim, so that I could reclaim my power, take back the power, create that thing for myself, and then create the environmental match, right? I experienced a hell of a lot of lack of love and acceptance to realize that I felt victimized, said, hey, you know what? I'm going to take back my power here. I'm going to learn how to love myself. I'm going to learn how to accept myself. Now I can create an environmental match to this, right? So, and then it makes decisions easier. Not to say decisions are ever easy, but I at least know what I feel in my heart, because
you're trusting the process.
Yes.
And what I will say, the last thing I will say is, if you're feeling completely just exhausted and mentally, physically just checked out, exhausted, just done with feeling how you're feeling, or torturing yourself or your environment, that is how you know that it is time.
Yes, absolutely.
When you're just like, I am so exhausted, I cannot do this anymore, you will then make a decision. But until you get to that point,
it's harder.
You're gonna swim upstream.
Yeah.
You're gonna fight the process a little bit.
So if you feel like the cost is worth it, and you're at that place where you're like, something's got to change, that's it. That's it. You're like, I knew what the cost was in that moment in my story, where I was like, oh man, that's a big cost. Like, life is a pretty huge cost.
And it might not just happen
the
way that you want it to happen, or look the way you expect it to, but it's going to happen the way it needs to happen, with pain and with joy. You're going to have both things. So just give yourself grace, and space and permission.
Patience.
Yeah. All the words.
Just a lot of it.
Well, and permission to let yourself feel what you need to. Permission that it's okay to take ownership. It's okay to make these changes. Even if others around you don't agree with it, it doesn't matter, because it's your life. It's your life. And you're going to do this in a responsible way. And sometimes that might hurt people, but sometimes it may not. And ultimately, it's about your life. And at the end of the day, how do you want to know that you've lived your life? Did I word that kind of weird?
Well, yeah.
I got a little wordy there.
Yeah, you did.
Can you reword that for me?
But, just to add like one more thing, if you like are somebody like me, I like to visualize. When I'm in these moments, this is actually something I never really do this with my clients, but I do it with myself very often. When I'm forced with a decision that I need to make, or I'm like, feeling like, okay, I've kind of, it's this feeling of like, I've outgrown my environment.
Yes.
Like I feel like I'm like, my environment is like a tough little shell, and I'm this baby chick, and I'm like, oh damn it, I gotta get out of here. And I'm like, elbow, like I'm trying to get out, I will do a visualization, and I will imagine myself like on my deathbed. I'm going to my old lady Jen.
This might give people anxiety.
No, I think this is peaceful.
Okay, let's hear it.
So I go to myself in the future, and I say, okay, and I'm Jen now, and I go and I sit with her, and I say, like, I ask myself, like, what hey, tell me what I should do here. what should I do? And like old lady Jen will be like, I know this sounds funny.
I like having a visual of you like in a hospital bed, like laying there,
Dude,
like
I'll
having
be under
this
the
talk
tree.
with yourself.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. Why did I think of the hospital? You're right.
No, I usually
that gurney will be under the tree.
I'll be out in the nature. But you know, I just imagine that and I say like what would I do? Like what would I tell myself? I ask myself like, hey, give me advice. What would you tell me right now to do? Like so that when I come to this place, I know I've done it all. And honestly, if I am to say, like if somebody was to ask me like, hey, have you done everything that you wanted to do up until this point? And would you be able to be in a happy place? My answer right now, even right now, there's things I want to do. It would be yes. I have, absolutely, without a doubt. And so I go to that visual because to me, it's like, it's a way for me to say like, hey, what should I do in this scenario? Like, just, you know.
Well, and have you, like the question I would ask myself is, have you, how do I want to say this? Spent the time, I don't know. I messed that up. I'm going to have to crop that out.
But I'm also going to say something quick. I'm always going to go to the death place. So we might as well just out that now. Can we have a tangent about that?
Oh, I was going to say.
You're giving people anxiety. I'm like, it's me. I'm fascinated by death. Okay, what do you want from me? I spend my days in cemeteries.
When I'm 80, I'm going to ask myself, did you spend your time and your energy the way that you wanted to?
Yeah, that's a good way. That's better. That's much better. But like
your way is your way.
Old
my
woman
my
Jen
way.
Is like, she's not beating around the bush and asking nicely. Like, hey, girl, what the fuck you doing?
And when I'm 80 years old, I'm going to look back and think, wow, I wasted a whole lot of energy worrying about and consuming myself with things that I just didn't need to be worried about.
Well, and that's the thing. And it's usually based on like what you're making choices based off what you think other people are going to think about you, how other people are going to potentially judge your choices, all of these kind of things. And you know, that visual came to me because I actually saw something on Facebook once, and I hope that it surfaces again so you guys can see it. But it was this kind of a slew of pictures, and the thing was, what would you tell younger women? So they were asking people who were in a pool of like 80, 90, whatever years old, what would you tell, you know, a 20-year-old right now? Like, and the wise place that you are in your life, what would you tell them? And it was like, don't worry about things so much. Don't be so hard on yourself. Don't gauge your choices against what other people are going to think of you. Like these kind of things. And so
that's good. For
me, it's like, I want to be that for myself. And I find that that's a very peaceful thing to look at it and say like, okay, would I be happy if I just didn't make a choice? Like, really, could I be at peace if I just said, oh, I'm just not going to make a choice? Or I let what I think other people would feel about me make the choice for me. Like, makes it pretty damn clear for me.
So this is a topic, we could probably even do a 2-part series on this, but this topic will lead us into our next segment. Yes, which is going to be more about our body image, body acceptance, self-love. So stay tuned because we have a lot more topics coming at you that are also hot topics.
Actually, yeah, we have been summoned to do an episode on tandem orgasms.
Yes,
on self-pleasure. Yeah. So that will be coming too.
We got to ease you guys into that though.
Ease you guys into tandem.
We appreciate all the love. Subscribe, write a review if you like the episode.
Share it out.
What?
If you like the episode, share it out.
Shout it out loud. I don't know.
Is that a song?
I think so. It must be because I'm a jingle singer and it must be from somewhere.
It's like a jingle from like your childhood. We don't know.
All right. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks.
Okay. We'll cut.
For more information on this episode, check out the show notes. Don't forget to follow us at Jen_Morgan and Caitlin.englert.coaching for updates. If you love this episode, take a screenshot and share to your Instagram stories. And don't forget to tag us. Until next time, have fun and don't forget to pleasure yourself.